It was supposed to be a simple afternoon. 14-year-old Maya Carter stood nervously at the customer service counter of Eastview Bank, clutching a crisp white envelope in both hands. Inside was $900, every dollar she had saved over the last 2 years. Birthday gifts, holiday money, babysitting earnings, even coins she'd collected in a jar. Her mother had finally agreed she was ready for a checking account, and Maya was excited. It felt like a rite of passage, something that signaled she was growing up. She even wore her best sweater and combed her hair twice, just to make a good impression. But now, standing under the cold fluorescent lights of the bank, she could feel her cheeks flushing as everything took a turn for the worse. "I didn't steal anything," Maya said, her voice quivering. "This is my money." Behind the desk, branch manager Linda Prescott crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow, looking the girl up and down like she was a suspicious item on a security camera. $900. A girl your age, walking in with that kind of cash? Her tone was laced with disbelief and something sharp. "Yeah, I don't think so." Maya felt her chest tighten. She took a small step back, confused and humiliated. "It's from my birthday and Christmas I've been saving up." "For years," Linda scoffed, not even trying to hide her disdain. She leaned forward, towering over the counter, her face hard. "Where's your mother, then? Why didn't she come with you, if this is so legitimate?" "She's at work," Maya said quickly, fighting the burn in her throat. "She said I could do this by myself." "Well, she was wrong," Linda snapped. She glanced over at one of the tellers, Jennifer, whose earlier smile had disappeared the moment Maya said how much money she had. "Call security," Linda instructed. "This doesn't look right." Maya panicked. "Wait please, I have my ID, my school card, my student ID, and my birth certificate. I even brought my report card." She fumbled through her backpack, pulling out documents and placing them on the counter with trembling hands. "You can check, I go to Fairlake Academy. This is my name. This is my money. Please, just look at it." But Linda didn't look. She barely glanced at the papers before pushing them aside with the back of her manicured hand like they were garbage. "Save it," she said coldly. "I've worked in banking for 20 years. I know a lie when I hear one. You don't just walk in here with nearly $1,000 and expect me to believe it's yours." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. The stares from the other customers pierced through her like needles. An elderly man shook his head. A woman pulled her purse closer. The air around her grew heavy, thick with unspoken suspicion. "Can I just call my mom?" Maya whispered. "Please." Linda narrowed her eyes. "We'll see what the police say about that." She reached for the phone and dialed with no hesitation. "Yes, I need officers sent to Eastview Bank, immediately. We have a young female, possibly 15, trying to deposit what looks like stolen money. She's refusing to leave, acting aggressive. Yes, African American, hoodie, jeans." Maya's legs felt weak. Her ears rang. She wasn't aggressive, she was scared. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't done anything wrong. And now, somehow, she was being treated like a criminal just for walking into a bank. Behind her, someone in line muttered, "Figures." Someone else chuckled. Maya wanted to disappear. She looked at the clock on the wall. Her mom's meeting wouldn't be over for another hour. Maya had hoped to surprise her by coming home with her new bank card and a big smile. Now, she wasn't even sure if she'd make it home at all. She thought about the envelope of money. All that time saving, being responsible, trying to earn her mother's trust. Was it really so unbelievable that a girl like her, black, young, alone, could have money that she didn't steal? The door buzzed open. 2 police officers walked in, eyes scanning until they landed on her. One was tall and bald with a clipboard. The other rested his hand on his belt the moment they approached. "Is this her?" the taller officer asked. Linda pointed. "That's her. Tried to pass off stolen cash like it was hers. Refused to leave when I questioned her. I'd be careful, she seemed sneaky." "I didn't refuse anything," Maya said quickly, her voice barely audible. "I asked to call my mom." The second officer gave her a tight-lipped smile. "Let's step outside and talk, okay?" "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "This is my money." She was guided outside, eyes still watching, whispers following her like shadows. She felt exposed, humiliated, violated. Her savings were still inside the bank. Her backpack was still unzipped, her dignity scattered somewhere on the cold tile floor behind her. Inside, Linda Prescott returned to the counter, brushing off her jacket with pride. Another crisis averted, she thought. She believed she'd done the right thing, trusted her instincts. She didn't know that across town, Maya's mother was about to check her phone and read the message that would change everything, because this wasn't just about money. It was about race, about power, about judgment, and Dr. Naomi Carter. She wasn't the kind of mother to let anyone get away with treating her daughter like a suspect just for being young, black, and proud. The storm hadn't started yet, but it was coming, and Eastview Bank had no idea what was about to hit them. Outside the bank, the cool afternoon breeze did little to soothe Maya's shaking body. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her chest, not from the cold, but from the raw panic twisting in her stomach. The 2 police officers stood beside her, one flipping through his notepad, the other watching her too closely, his hand never straying far from his hip. It was like something out of a nightmare. How had a simple visit to the bank turned into this? Name, the tall one asked. Maya, Maya Carter, she said softly. Spell it, he demanded. His tone wasn't angry, but it wasn't kind, either. It was flat, dismissive, like he was going through the motions of something he'd already decided. She spelled it out, her voice small. She handed over her school ID with trembling fingers. Why do you have that much cash, Maya? The second officer asked, arms crossed. It's my savings, she said quickly. Birthday money, holidays, babysitting. I've been saving since I was 12. I just wanted to open a checking account. He raised an eyebrow. That's a lot of savings for a kid. Maya blinked hard, swallowing the lump in her throat. I earned it. He didn't respond. Instead, he stepped aside to speak quietly into his radio. Maya couldn't hear what he said, but she caught the words, minor, unverified cash, and refusing to leave premises. Each word hit her like a slap. I didn't refuse, she muttered under her breath. I asked to call my mom. The taller officer looked down at her. You know, this sort of thing happens all the time. People come in with stories, and we have to sort out what's real. We're not accusing you of anything yet, but when someone walks in with almost $1,000 in cash, no adult, no appointment, it raises questions. It shouldn't, Maya said before she could stop herself. He gave her a sideways look. Excuse me, she looked up, heart pounding. It shouldn't raise questions, not just because I'm black, not just because I'm young. He didn't answer, just looked away and continued writing. Inside the bank, Linda Prescott stood at the window, arms crossed smugly as she watched the scene unfold. She spoke to another teller, her voice loud enough to carry. You know how it is, she said, shaking her head. You let one slip through the cracks, and suddenly, everyone thinks they can game the system. Did she have any ID? The teller asked. Please, Linda scoffed, probably fake. Kids these days print anything off the internet. If you ask me, this was classic deception. She probably learned it from someone at home. Jennifer, the younger teller who'd first spoken to Maya, bit her lip but said nothing. She looked down at the documents Maya had left on the counter: birth certificate, school forms, even a folded letter signed by her mother authorizing the account. Jennifer wasn't sure what felt worse, the possibility that Maya had been telling the truth, or the fact that it hadn't mattered. Outside, Maya watched as one officer went back into the bank. Her breath caught in her throat. Were they arresting her? Were they searching her things? The officer returned moments later, holding her envelope of money, sealed and labeled as evidence. Her chest collapsed with the weight of it. I need to call my mom, she said again, louder this time. The second officer looked up. What's her number? I don't know it by heart, Maya admitted, mortified. It's in my phone. Your phone's inside. We'll get to that. Maya stared at him in disbelief. I'm not allowed to call my mom. We need to finish asking questions first. I didn't do anything wrong, she said, louder now, voice cracking. A few people across the street had stopped to watch. A woman walked past slowly, phone in hand, filming discreetly. Maya saw it and felt a new kind of fear. Not just fear of what was happening, but fear of who might see it. Her classmates, her teachers, her neighbors. The second officer stepped forward. Look, Maya, if the money checks out and your mother confirms your story, you'll be free to go. But the bank has the right to report suspicious behavior, and we have the right to respond to those reports. Suspicious, she echoed. Because I wanted to open a bank account. The tall officer looked uncomfortable now. He shifted his stance, but didn't say anything. I wasn't rude. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I had everything they asked for. The only thing different about me is that I look like this. Silence. And then the shorter officer said, That's enough. You can wait in the patrol car while we verify the documents. Maya backed away. I'm not going in any car. I didn't break the law. You're not being arrested, he said. It's for your safety. That line, for your safety, echoed in her head. She'd heard it on the news too many times. That phrase was what adults used when they wanted to pretend something cruel was just policy. Her hands clenched into fists. I'm not going. The officer stepped toward her. Just then, a voice rang out. Excuse me. What's going on here? Everyone turned. A sharply dressed woman stood at the curb, phone to her ear, eyes blazing. Her tailored black suit and silk blouse were immaculate, her heels clicking with purpose as she stepped forward. Her hair was swept into a bun. Her presence was electric. Maya's heart surged. Mom, the woman gave her daughter the slightest nod before turning her focus onto the officers like a laser beam. Naomi Carterlin had arrived, and the situation was about to change very, very quickly. When Dr. Naomi Carterlin's phone vibrated, she was halfway through leading a quarterly review meeting in one of the tallest towers in downtown Brookfield. The conference room was quiet but intense. with board members and senior analysts watching, as she broke down investment strategies, risk ratios, and quarterly gains like a surgeon with a scalpel. Her presence was magnetic, precise, commanding, poised. She almost ignored the message. Her assistant knew to filter anything personal during meetings, but something tugged at her, a mother's instinct, that strange gravity that grips your chest when something isn't right. She glanced down at her phone on the sleek black table. "Mom, the bank said I stole my money. They called the cops. I'm scared. Please come." Naomi stared at the screen, not blinking. Her heart stopped, then thundered. She stood so suddenly that her leather chair tipped backward and slammed into the glass wall behind her. Every head in the room turned. "Meeting's over," she said sharply, effective immediately. One of the directors blinked. "Dr. Carterlin, are you sure?" "We haven't finished." She didn't even look at him. She was already gathering her phone, her coat, and her power. "Something far more urgent than quarterly returns just landed on my desk," she said, her voice sharp as steel. "Someone laid hands on my daughter." The room went silent. Naomi swept out, phone already to her ear. Her driver answered on the first ring. "Pull around now. We're leaving in 2 minutes. Bring the legal folder labeled First National. Call Jordan from our PR team. Tell him to meet me there. Also, call Charles Benson. He sits on the Eastview Bank board. Tell him I need him outside the branch in 15 minutes. Don't ask why. Just do it." "Yes, ma'am." She hung up and dialed one more number. "Angela," she said, "I need you at Eastview Bank. Now, Maya's in trouble." Her longtime friend and attorney didn't hesitate. "On my way, bringing 2 paralegals. Should I prepare a cease and desist? Prepare a lawsuit." 6 minutes later, Naomi stepped into the private elevator of her building and took the express ride down to the underground garage. Her car was already waiting, sleek, black, bulletproof, discreet. She didn't need anyone to see her coming until she was ready to be seen. As the car moved through traffic with precision and speed, Naomi sat in silence, mentally preparing. Her mind raced through possibilities: racial profiling, wrongful detainment, reputational damage, emotional trauma. But most of all, she thought of Maya, her soft-spoken, bright-eyed girl. The daughter she had raised to be smart, proud, and grounded. The daughter who still believed the world would treat her fairly if she followed the rules. Naomi had tried to shield her. She had built a life where Maya could grow without being crushed by either wealth or prejudice. She kept the limos and private chefs hidden. She sent Maya to school with packed lunches and rode the line between luxury and normalcy with painful care. But the world didn't care about balance. It only saw what it wanted to see. A black girl, alone, with money, and now they would see something else. Her. As the car turned onto the street where Eastview Bank sat, Naomi's security guard stepped out first. A second vehicle pulled in behind them, holding Angela and her legal team, and already waiting at the curb, checking his watch nervously. Charles Benson, a senior member of the bank's board, a man who had known Naomi for over a decade. He approached quickly. "Naomi, what's happened?" "Your bank's manager detained my daughter, called the police, refused to let her call me, all because she dared to deposit her own savings." His mouth opened. "You're sure? That can't. You have 60 seconds to walk inside that building and remove every piece of evidence you can from that security system. Pull every recording, every document, every audio file. I'll give you one chance to fix this before I do it publicly." He nodded, stunned, and disappeared through the doors. Naomi didn't follow yet. She needed a moment. Not to breathe, but to sharpen. She looked ahead. Across the sidewalk, Maya stood near a police car, eyes wide and red from crying. One officer stood close by. Another leaned against the hood of the vehicle like he was waiting for a lunch order. Her daughter looked so small and so alone, and that made Naomi's fury settle into something deeper, quieter, colder, colder. She walked across the pavement like a storm on heels, not a hair out of place, not a word wasted. One officer turned. "Ma'am, this is a restricted." Naomi didn't stop. She stepped between him and Maya and pulled her daughter into her arms. "I'm here," she said. "You're safe now." Maya clutched her, sobbing into her coat. "I didn't do anything, Mom. I swear I didn't." "I know," Naomi whispered. "You don't have to explain anything. You did everything right." Then she turned to the officers. Her expression had changed. "Fire behind ice. Which one of you laid hands on my daughter?" she asked. Neither spoke. Angela walked up beside her now, holding a red folder. "This is Dr. Naomi Carterlin," she said loudly, "CEO of Carterlin Global. Her firm owns controlling stock in this bank. If you've made even one mistake in how you handled this child, I suggest you start revising your statement now, because I will have every word you've said on body cam before the sun goes down." The taller officer's face turned pale. "Ma'am, we were just responding to a report. We didn't know who. You didn't need to know who she was," Naomi snapped. "You just needed to treat her like a person." Behind her, bank staff began gathering at the windows. Linda Prescott's face appeared among them, and the moment her eyes met Naomi's, her expression changed from smug to horrified. because now she knew. She hadn't just called the police on a child, she had called the police on the daughter of the woman who owned the bank. And the reckoning had only just begun. The moment Dr. Naomi Carter Lynn stepped through the glass doors of Eastview Bank, the atmosphere changed. It was as if the temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. The murmurs faded. Chairs stopped squeaking. Even the tapping of keyboards slowed to a halt. She didn't say a word at first. Her heels clicked against the tile floor, clean, precise, commanding. In one hand, she held a crimson leather folder. In the other, her phone. Her expression was unreadable, but her presence was unmistakable. The storm had arrived. Branch manager Linda Prescott stood frozen behind the counter, trying to maintain the poise she'd worn earlier when she'd called the police on a teenage girl, but it was slipping now. She could feel it. That name Carter Lynn was already ringing in her ears. Naomi Carter Lynn wasn't just a CEO. She was the CEO, the woman whose firm owned a majority share in this very bank's parent company, a woman who had the power to dissolve entire divisions with a single phone call. Linda straightened her blazer, clinging to whatever scrap of confidence she had left. Ma'am, if you're the mother of that girl, I want you to know, we were just following procedure. It wasn't anything personal. Naomi's eyes met Herscom direct, unblinking. Your procedure, she said softly, included calling the police on a minor. A minor who was alone, polite, documented, and carrying her own hard-earned money. Linda opened her mouth to speak, but Naomi raised one hand. A subtle gesture, sharp, final. You don't need to explain yourself. You'll be doing that in writing and in court. Silence rippled through the bank. Staff members shifted uncomfortably. A teller slowly backed away from her terminal. A security guard near the exit pretended to check his radio, clearly avoiding the confrontation. Naomi continued. I've spent 2 decades building institutions like this, institutions that promise trust, security, and dignity. And I let you manage one of them. Linda tried again. Dr. Carter Lynn, I assure you there was a misunderstanding. She came in without an adult, with a large amount of cash. You can't expect me to ignore how that looks. Exactly, Naomi said, stepping closer. You didn't ignore how it looked. You didn't ask how it was. She pulled a business card from her folder and placed it on the counter, sliding it forward like a weapon. Dr. Naomi Carter Lynn, Chairwoman Carter Lynn, Global Holdings Majority Shareholder, Eastview Banking Group. Linda stared at it like it might burn her fingertips. And just to clarify, Naomi said, voice low and steady, my daughter is not only a legal minor with government ID and valid documents, she is also the granddaughter of Malcolm Lynn, the man who once sat on this bank's founding board. You didn't just profile a customer, you profiled a legacy. A strangled sound escaped from Linda's throat. I didn't know. I had no idea. You didn't need to know who she was, Naomi snapped. You just needed to treat her like a human being. The tension in the room was electric. Every person inside the bank could feel the shift, from power to justice, from doubt to reckoning. Behind Naomi, Angela stepped forward, holding a file of her own. This is a preliminary legal notice, she said, placing it on the counter next to the business card. Your branch is under immediate review for racial profiling, violation of minor protection laws, and emotional distress damages. You are to cease communication with the minor involved and her family until counsel is formally appointed. Effective now. Linda's face collapsed. Please don't do this. I've worked here for over 20 years and you've clearly learned nothing. Naomi said, you're not being dismissed because of one mistake. You're being dismissed because of who you chose to be when no one was watching. The problem isn't your policy, it's your perception. Charles Benson, the board member Naomi had summoned, entered the branch just then, accompanied by a compliance officer. He gave Naomi a respectful nod, then turned to Linda. Seen the footage, he said flatly. We're moving forward with termination. Clean out your office by the end of the day. Linda looked around the room, desperate. No one would meet her eyes. Not the tellers, not the guards, not even Jennifer, the young woman who had first called her over. Jennifer looked away, guilt carved into her features. Naomi turned to Jennifer. You were the first point of contact, she said. Why didn't you listen to my daughter? Jennifer's eyes welled with tears. I didn't know what to do. I thought it seemed off. And when Ms. Prescott came over, I stayed quiet. I should have said something. I'm sorry. Naomi held her gaze a moment longer. Then she nodded once. You were afraid. That's understandable. But remember this. Silence isn't neutral. When you stand by, you stand with the problem. Jennifer looked down, ashamed. Naomi turned, already done with the room. The battle wasn't over, but the message had been delivered. She headed for the exit, her daughter waiting just outside the glass doors. Maya's shoulders were still tense, but her eyes lit up the moment she saw her mother walking toward her. Naomi opened the door and stepped into the sunlight. It's done, she said softly, wrapping her arm around Maya's shoulder. You won't ever go through that alone again. Maya didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The world had just watched her mother walk into a building full of power and walk out with every piece of it in her hand. By the time Naomi and Maya reached home that evening, the story had already begun to spread. It started with the woman who'd filmed the incident outside the bank, just a bystander, recording quietly from across the street. Her video went live. Within an hour, a scared black teenager being questioned by police, a visibly shaken mother stepping in, the tension, the shift in authority. And finally, Naomi walking out of the bank as Linda Prescott stood frozen behind the glass, her career unraveling in real time. Within minutes, the video had 1,000 views, then 10,000. By midnight, it was trending nationwide under the hashtag she was just banking. Maya sat curled in her bed, knees to her chest, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Her phone buzzed non-stop, but she didn't touch it. Naomi had placed it on the dresser and muted it hours ago. Downstairs, the house was alive with activity, lawyers coming and going, PR managers whispering strategy. Naomi on the phone with senior execs from Eastview Bank, calmly issuing directives like a general commanding her army. But upstairs, Maya was quiet, frozen. Even though she was safe, even though justice had begun to take form, she didn't feel powerful. She didn't feel vindicated, she just felt. Exposited knock came at the door. "May I come in?" Naomi's voice was gentle, now softer than Maya had heard it all day. Maya nodded without speaking. Naomi entered slowly, sitting beside her daughter on the edge of the bed. The room was dim, warm with evening light. "I'm proud of you," Naomi said. Maya blinked. "For what?" "For standing your ground. For not yelling. For remembering who you are, even when they tried to reduce you to nothing." Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "I was scared, Mom." Naomi nodded. "You were supposed to be. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you real. I don't understand why they didn't believe me. I had everything. My ID, my school docs, proof. And they still treated me like." Her voice cracked. "Like a criminal." Naomi reached over, brushing a hand over Maya's curls. "Because people like Linda don't see you for who you are. They see what they expect to see. And that expectation is shaped by a broken world, a world I've spent my whole life trying to protect you from." "I didn't do anything wrong." Maya whispered again. "You didn't," Naomi said firmly. "And that's the part that hurts the most." Meanwhile, the internet had turned into a firestorm. Clips of Naomi's confrontation were being stitched into commentary videos by influencers, civil rights advocates, and financial professionals alike. Maya's name wasn't public. Naomi had made sure of that, but the story was everywhere. A young black girl, wrongly accused. A powerful mother who turned the tables. A bank that never saw it coming. By morning, Eastview Bank issued a formal statement. "We sincerely apologize to the young customer and her family for the unacceptable treatment she experienced. The manager involved has been terminated. A full investigation is underway, and we are launching immediate bias training across all branches." But it wasn't enough. Protesters appeared at Eastview's downtown office. Customers started closing their accounts, posting screenshots online. Other women, young and old, began sharing their stories of similar treatment in banks, stores, airports. The comments were heartbreaking, and all of them echoed one core truth. Maya wasn't alone. Back in her bedroom, Maya finally turned on her phone. Hundreds of messages filled her inbox. Friends from school, classmates she hadn't spoken to in months, even teachers. "I saw what happened. That was so wrong. Maya, you're so brave. My little cousin went through the same thing. Thank you for speaking up." She scrolled and scrolled until one message made her stop. It was from her economics teacher, Mr. Alvarez. "You once told me you wanted to start a youth finance club. I think now's the time. You've already started a movement, whether you meant to or not. Let's talk when you're ready." Maya stared at the screen, heart pounding. A movement. The words felt bigger than her, but deep down, she knew something had shifted. What started as humiliation had turned into visibility. And what her mother did in that bank. Maya had never seen power like that. Not loud, not violent, just unshakable. It had protected her, but it had also taught her. Later that night, Naomi sat on the balcony, phone in hand, eyes locked on an email. The Eastview board wanted to meet. They wanted her to help restructure public trust. They wanted guidance, support, leadership. And Naomi knew this wasn't just about Maya anymore. This was about every other child who'd ever been humiliated just for existing in a world that feared them. This was about policy, about justice, about legacy. She tapped a quick reply. "I'll take the meeting, but not in a boardroom. In a classroom, with Maya beside me." She hit send, then looked up at the stars. The fallout had begun, but so had something else, a reckoning, a rise, and a young girl realizing her voice was worth hearing. Maya stood in front of her full-length mirror, tugging nervously at the hem of her blazer. It was her mother's, tailored years ago, now slightly oversized on her smaller frame, but it felt like armor, like she was borrowing more than just fabric, like she was stepping into something heavier, responsibility. The mirror didn't lie. She still looked like a teenager, big eyes, hesitant hands, quiet strength, but beneath it all, something new had taken root, something that hadn't been there before that day in the bank. Conviction. Downstairs, Naomi waited beside the car with a soft smile. She didn't say anything when Maya appeared. She just opened the door and let her daughter climb in first, as if signaling, "Today, you lead." The car ride was quiet. The city moved past them in blurs: fast food joints, corner stores, banks with familiar logos that now felt heavier, sharper. The streets looked the same, but Maya didn't, not inside. They pulled into the lot of a community youth center in West Brookfield. Cameras were already stationed outside. Journalists stood clustered near the entrance, not shouting questions, watching, respectfully, curiously. Everyone had read the headlines, seen the video, but no one had heard from Maya herself, not yet. The director of the center, Ms. Renner, greeted them at the door. She was warm, but her voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you both for being here," she said. "The students are waiting inside. We've had to turn people away. Everyone wants to be part of this conversation." Naomi gave a small nod, then turned to Maya. "Ready?" she asked. Maya took a breath. "As I'll ever be." They walked through a short hallway, and when the doors opened into the main auditorium, the sound hit her like a wave. Applause. Students stood clapping. Parents nodded solemnly. Teachers offered encouraging smiles. The crowd wasn't huge, maybe 60, 70 people, but it felt like more. Every set of eyes locked onto her, and Maya could feel the weight of their hope. At the front of the room, 2 chairs sat on a small raised platform. Naomi gestured for Maya to take the center seat. She did, slowly, carefully. The room quieted. The moderator, a soft-spoken high school teacher named Ms. Graham, stepped to the mic. "Today, we're here to listen to Maya Carter, not just the girl from the video, not just the daughter of a CEO, but a student, a young woman, someone whose story reflects far more than just her own experience." She turned to Maya. "Maya, if you're ready, the mic is yours." Maya looked out across the room. Her palms were sweaty. Her voice felt trapped in her chest. But somewhere in that room, a few rows back, she saw a younger girl, maybe 10 years old, wearing her school backpack, swinging her feet nervously. Beneath the chair, Maya remembered being that girl. And so, she began. "I went to the bank that day, feeling proud of myself. I had saved for 2 years, babysitting, birthday money, chores. I was finally going to open my first checking account. My mom trusted me. I trusted myself." She paused. The room was silent, but when I walked up to the counter, that pride vanished. Just because of how I looked, just because of how they saw me. Her voice wavered, but she didn't stop. "I had everything they asked for. My ID proof documents, but it wasn't enough. They didn't see me as a girl trying to learn about money. They saw me as a problem." A few students nodded, some with tears in their eyes. "I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just asked to call my mom. And instead, they called the police." Her hands were clenched now. "Not in fear, but in memory. I didn't feel like a person that day. I felt like a threat. Like I didn't belong in a place made for people who look right. And the worst part was no one stood up for me." She turned to the crowd. "If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever felt small, in a room where you were doing everything right, I see you. And I'm sorry." A murmur rippled through the room. Maya's voice grew steadier. "But I also want to say this. I'm not just what happened to me. I'm what I choose to do with it." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a flyer, simple white paper, printed in bold letters. "The First Check Club, Youth Banking and Justice Initiative, led by Maya Carter, coming fall 2025 for students aged 12 to 18, focusing on financial literacy, confidence, and anti-bias advocacy." Maya held it up. "I'm starting a club for every kid who's ever been made to feel like money doesn't belong in their hands. For every student who wants to understand how banks work, how power works, and how we can change it." A gasp, then applause. "I don't want to be famous. I want to be useful, and I want to make sure no other kid leaves a bank crying just because they walked in with hope." The room rose to their feet. And this time, when Maya looked out across the crowd, she didn't feel small, she felt seen. Later that night, Naomi sat beside her daughter at the kitchen table. "You were incredible," she said softly. "I wish I had your courage at 14. Maya smiled, tired but glowing. "You gave me that courage, Mom." Naomi looked at her daughter, not just with pride, but with awe. "I may have opened the door, Maya, but you walked through it." 3 days after Maya launched the First Check Club, the messages changed. The supportive texts were still coming, but now, so were the others, the anonymous comments, the angry tweets, the subtle racism wrapped in corporate politeness. At first, it was small. Someone replied to a repost of her speech with a mocking comment. "Maybe teach your kid not to act suspicious next time instead of crying about racism." Another called it a staged publicity stunt. Then came a YouTube video, titled, "Was the Bank Girl Overreacting?" made by a middle-aged man with a podcast mic and smug smile. He questioned her attitude, said her mother weaponized wealth, and claimed Maya's story was why kids today are so entitled. It had 200,000 views by the next morning. Maya scrolled through the comments, her stomach sinking with each word. The bank was right to be cautious. She probably got special treatment just because her mom's rich. This is why no one trusts teenagers. The words blurred. Her phone felt like it was burning her hand. She slammed it face down on her desk and stared at the wall for the first time since the incident. Maya wanted to disappear. Downstairs, Naomi was in the kitchen, prepping for a virtual investor call. When she noticed Maya hadn't come down for breakfast, she climbed the stairs and knocked gently on the bedroom door. No answer. She pushed it open slowly. Maya sat on the edge of her bed, wrapped in a hoodie, eyes red. Naomi sat beside her, not saying anything right away. The silence spoke for both of them. "They're saying I made it all up," Maya finally whispered. "That I only got justice because of you. That I should have just kept quiet." Naomi's face tightened. She reached for her daughter's hand. "I was waiting for this," she said, not hoping for it, but expecting it. Maya looked up. "Why?" "Because when you speak the truth," Naomi said gently, "people who are comfortable in the lie always push back." Maya shook her head. "But I didn't do anything wrong." "That's exactly why they're angry." That evening, Maya sat on her balcony, watching the sun dip below the city skyline. She held her phone in her lap, debating whether to delete her social media accounts. But a new message popped up. It was a video. She hesitated, then pressed play. It was a girl, maybe 12 years old, with thick braids and bright eyes. "Hi Maya, you don't know me, but I saw your speech. My mom cried when she watched it. She told me it's okay to be smart, even if people think I'm too much. I'm joining your club when it starts. I even started saving birthday money." "Thank you." Maya stared at the screen, her breath caught in her throat. More messages followed. "You inspired me to start learning about credit and savings. I was scared to talk about what happened to me at the mall. Not anymore. My little brother watched your speech, and now he wants to open a lemonade stand." The noise, hate, the doubt, the fake concern was still there, but underneath it, a rhythm was building. A heartbeat. Something real. Impact. At school the next day, Maya walked into the cafeteria expecting stares or whispers. Instead, she found a poster taped to the wall. "First Check Club Interest Meeting Tuesday after school, led by Maya Carter, room 112. She blinked. A student from her English class gave her a nod in the hallway. Another high-fived her near the lockers. Even Mr. Alvarez smiled as she passed. "Keep walking tall," he said. "That mic doesn't belong to everyone, but it belongs to you." Maya felt the weight on her chest shift slightly, still heavy, but not crushing. That night, Naomi found her daughter at the dining table, sketching ideas in a notebook. "I thought you might quit," she said softly. "I thought about it," Maya admitted, "but I realized something." "What's that?" "If I stop just because people are uncomfortable, then I'm letting them win. And I didn't go through all that." She paused, correcting herself. "We didn't go through all that just so I could shrink again." Naomi smiled, but it wasn't her usual composed smile. It was the full one, the proud, mom smile. That made her eyes crease at the corners. "There are moments," she said, "when you stop being someone's child and start becoming your own kind of woman. This is one of them." Maya nodded. "Then I guess it's time to start acting like it." Across the city, the Eastview Bank boardroom was full of tension. Their PR team was in crisis mode. The CEO's inbox was flooded. And now, there were whispers of other banks experiencing similar walkouts, protests, even internal audits, all triggered by one girl. One story, one spark. The backlash had arrived, but so had the fire. And Maya had decided she would not be extinguished. The classroom buzzed with energy. Room 112, usually reserved for quiet after-school tutoring, was now packed wall-to-wall with teenagers of all kinds. Shy freshmen with notebooks clutched to their chests. Juniors with earbuds dangling. Seniors, leaning against the back wall with arms crossed but curiosity in their eyes. It was standing room only. A handmade banner stretched across the whiteboard in black marker and red tape. First Check Club Empowering Youth Through Money and Voice. Maya stood at the front, adjusting the sleeves of her navy blue hoodie. Her palms were sweaty, but her face was composed, a clipboard in one hand. Her first real agenda. She never expected this many kids to show up, not after everything. But here they were, and now it was her turn to lead. "Hi, everyone," she said, voice clear but cautious. "I'm Maya Carter, and this club isn't about MIAs, about you, about us, about making sure none of us ever feels powerless when we walk into a place meant to serve us like a bank, a classroom, a courtroom, or anywhere." There were nods. A few students clapped softly. Maya glanced at her mom sitting quietly near the back. Naomi offered the smallest smile, the kind that meant "I'm here, but I won't step in unless you fall." Maya continued. "Today's session is about one question. What does financial power look like, and who decides who gets it?" A few hands rose, others scribbled in notebooks. "This isn't a lecture," she said. "It's a conversation. We'll talk about savings, credit, predatory systems, but mostly we'll talk about what's been missing from these conversations. People like us." Someone clapped louder this time. A ripple of energy filled the room. Maya felt herself rising, until the door creaked open, and in walked him, a tall man in his mid-50s suit. gold watch, clean cut, with a calm confidence that filled the room without trying. He wasn't a student, not a teacher either, but Maya recognized him. Mr. Calvin Brooks, former regional director of Eastview Bank, the same man who weeks ago had quietly resigned after Naomi declined his public apology request. The board had called it a retirement. Maya called it something else. Accountability. Whispers filled the room as he approached the front. Naomi sat up straighter in her chair but didn't move. Calvin gave Maya a polite nod. "May I speak?" Maya's heart raced, her fingers gripped the clipboard. She could say no, but something inside her pride maybe, or fire said let him try. She gestured to the side of the room. "Go ahead." He stepped forward. "Most of you know who I am," he said, "or you think you do. I used to work for the same bank that disrespected Maya. I've worked in finance for 30 years, and I came here today not to defend what happened, but to ask something." He turned to Maya. "You say you want to teach kids about money. That's admirable, but money is a system built on history, on rules, on math, not just emotion. And the truth is, not everyone is ready for it." The room went still. Calvin faced the crowd. "People are poor because of bad choices, not always discrimination. And if we want change, we need personal responsibility, not just blame." There were murmurs. A few heads nodded, others frowned. Maya felt her jaw tighten. He smiled faintly. "So I ask you, Maya, are you here to teach these students how to open checking accounts? Or are you here to start a fight?" Silence. Challenge laid bare. Everyone turned to her. She stood taller, walked slowly toward him, then stopped, directly facing the man who had once controlled boardrooms filled with power. "I'm here," she said, "to teach kids how to recognize the walls around a man, then give them the tools to break through." Calvin blinked. "You think we don't know about personal responsibility? We've been taught it since birth. Work twice as hard, be twice as careful, don't make a scene." "But what happens when we do everything right and still get punished?" A girl near the front whispered. "That part." Maya kept going. "Stronger now. You think money is just math? Then explain why banks still deny more loans in black neighborhoods than white ones, with the same income. Why schools in low districts don't offer financial education at all. Why kids like us only hear about credit after we've ruined it." Calvin's jaw tightened slightly. "This isn't a fight," Maya said. "This is a mirror, and if that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe, just maybe, it's working." The room erupted in applause. Loud, sustained. Calvin didn't speak again. He gave a small nod and quietly left the room. As the door closed behind him, Maya exhaled. Not in relief. In release. The weight of doubt was gone. She turned back to the group. "Let's begin." That night, Naomi and Maya walked home under a violet blue sky, the sounds of distant traffic echoing softly. "You didn't have to let him speak," Naomi said. "I know," Maya replied. "But I wanted to." "Why?" "Because I wanted everyone to see that I don't just speak when it's easy. I speak when it matters." Naomi paused, then whispered, "I've never been prouder." Maya smiled faintly. "That makes two of us." The challenge came. She didn't back down. She rose, and now, the movement had a leader. The envelope came on a Tuesday. It was sleek, cream-colored, heavy paper. No return address, just gold lettering embossed in the corner. National Youth Equity Council, Washington, D.C. Maya stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Inside, a formal letter, handwritten and signed. "Dear Maya, we've been following your story, your leadership, your voice, and we believe it belongs on a larger stage. We are inviting you to become the youngest member of the National Youth Equity Council. You would be flown to Washington, D.C., to participate in monthly meetings with policymakers, nonprofit leaders, and financial justice advocates. You'll have a chance to help shape national youth banking policy, improve equity in education, and inspire young leaders around the country. Please consider this an invitation to build something bigger. Respectfully, Elijah Grant, Chairman." NYC. Maya read it twice. Then a third time. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just felt the weight of it. The kind of weight that meant, if she said yes, her life would never go back to what it was before. Later that evening, she sat across from her mom at the kitchen table. Letter in hand. Naomi read it silently, lips pressed in a line. She didn't react right away. "What do you think?" Maya asked softly. Naomi looked up. "I think it's a huge honor. And a huge responsibility." "Too huge?" Naomi tilted her head. "That depends. Do you want to lead a movement from the front lines, or from the top floors?" Maya frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Naomi said gently, "being on national councils looks good on paper, but it's not always real power. Sometimes it's just politics wrapped in praise." Maya looked down. "But this could help a lot of people." "Yes," Naomi said, "but don't forget the ones right here. The ones who joined your club because you sat next to them at lunch. The ones who showed up because they knew your name before it was on the news." She slid the letter back across the table. "So the question isn't just what you're being offered. The question is, what are you being asked to leave behind?" The next day at school, Maya couldn't focus. In English class, she doodled little scales of justice in the margins of her notebook. In math, she accidentally answered a statistics question with the word impact. During lunch, she sat on the bleachers, watching students laugh and throw frisbees on the field. They didn't know. They didn't know. She might not be here next month, not for meetings, not for the next club session, not for the new girl who'd finally found a place to belong. They didn't know the decision she was carrying like a stone in her chest. That evening, she got a text from Mr. Alvarez. Want to talk for a minute after school tomorrow? Just us. She agreed. After class, she met him in the empty media room, where he was packing up books for the new financial literacy shelf the school had agreed to build. She helped him stack them. After a few minutes, he said, "So, Washington, huh?" She froze. "How did you know I saw your name on their candidate list? A friend of mine works in D.C. Big deal." "Maya," she sighed. "I don't know what to do." Alvarez nodded. "Let me guess. Feels like a dream, but also like betrayal." Maya looked up. "Yes, exactly." He leaned on a desk, arms folded. "When I was your age, I got invited to a science program in Europe, all expenses paid. Top professors. Changed my life. So you think I should go?" "Not necessarily," he said. "Because when I got back, I realized I'd missed the chance to change my own school. The lab I wanted to build, the funding, was gone. The kids I was mentoring, they moved on. I had gained something big, but lost something small and irreplaceable." Maya stayed quiet. Alvarez looked her in the eye. "The world will give you a lot of offers, Maya, some glitter, some glow, but only you know which ones let you keep your voice." That night, Maya sat alone in her room. The letter lay open on the bed beside her. She pulled out her journal and wrote 2 words at the top of a page. "What matters?" And underneath, she began to list: the girl who cried after the first meeting, the boy who emailed her asking how to open a savings account, the group that met at lunch every Thursday to talk about fairness, the students who felt seen because she didn't leave. The power of building something together. She stared at the list. Then, without fanfare, she opened her email, clicked compose, and began typing. "Dear Mr. Grant, thank you for the invitation to join the NIAC. I'm honored to be considered, but for now, I need to say no. Not because I don't believe in the work, but because the work I'm doing right here on the ground, with students like MIS just beginning, and I can't walk away from it yet. I hope there will be another time, but for now, I'm choosing what's real over what looks good. I hope you understand. With respect, Maya Carter." She hit send and exhaled. The next morning, she returned to room 112. The lights were on. Students were already seated. Someone had brought donuts. Another had decorated the whiteboard with a quote she didn't recognize. "Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can." Maya smiled. She had chosen not the spotlight, but the fire, and it burned brighter than ever. The world had offered her a stage, but Maya chose to build her own. One student, one voice, one club at a time. It was the anniversary event for the first Check Club. Exactly 1 year since Maya Carter walked into a bank with $800, a hopeful smile, and left in tears. Now she stood in the gleaming auditorium of Eastview Community Center, a room that hadn't existed before her name became a symbol of change. Behind her, a massive screen displayed photos from the past year, workshops with students, community cleanup days, protest marches, youth-led fundraisers, even financial literacy seminars hosted by actual banks, ones that had once turned people like her away. Hundreds of guests filled the room. Teachers, journalists, community leaders, students from all over the city, parents holding children on their laps. The mayor was in the front row. So was the new CEO of Eastview Bank, and so was Maya's mother, Naomi, wearing a dark blue suit and an expression that blended pride, wonder, and something deeper. Maya stepped up to the podium. She took a breath, then another, and began. "A year ago, I was called a thief. A year ago, I was told I didn't belong. A year ago, my voice was dismissed. But today, I'm not just here to speak, I'm here to close the loop." The crowd leaned in. "I didn't ask for this fight, I was forced into it. But once it started, I had 2 choices, shrink or rise." Her voice sharpened, "And I chose to rise, not just for myself, but for the girl who's afraid to speak up at school, for the boy who thinks banks are only for other people, for the family who wonders why the rules don't feel the same for them." Applause thundered through the room. But then, Maya looked out into the crowd and paused, because near the side aisle, half hidden in the crowd, sat Linda Prescott, older, smaller than Maya remembered. Not in her usual pencil skirt and pin-tight bun, but in a soft cardigan, clutching a notepad in her lap like she was the student now. She hadn't been invited, but she was here. Maya's breath caught for a second. The entire year folded in on itself. The tears, the spotlight, the backlash, the club, the movement, the fire. All of it started with her. Maya turned back to the mic. "Some of you might wonder what justice looks like. Is it revenge? Is it firing someone? Is it lawsuits, or headlines, or awards? To me, justice is bigger. It's when the person who tried to silence you has no choice but to sit still and listen. Every eye in the room turned to Linda. She didn't flinch. Maya continued. Justice is when the world hears the truth, not because it was loud, but because it refused to be buried. It's when a girl they called a thief becomes a teacher, when the powerless find community, and when the next generation is ready, not because someone made space for us, but because we carved it ourselves. The applause swelled again. Some stood, others wiped their eyes. But Maya wasn't finished. And to the woman who tried to define me with suspicion that day, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not broken, I'm just ... free. You gave me a moment of pain. I turned it into a movement of purpose. Silence, then thunder. The audience erupted into a standing ovation, not out of pity or spectacle, but recognition. The kind you give to someone who not only endured the fire, but became the flame. After the event, Maya slipped outside for air. The night was calm. A warm breeze rustled the trees along the sidewalk. Distant laughter echoed from inside the building. She heard footsteps behind her. Linda. They stood in silence. For a moment, no cameras, no press, just two people bound by a single, defining memory. Linda spoke first. I don't expect forgiveness, she said softly, but I wanted to say, I've followed your journey. I read everything, watched everything, and she hesitated. I learned a lot. Too late, maybe, but I learned. Maya didn't look at her. Not right away. Then, you didn't just hurt me. You embarrassed me. You erased me in public. I know, and still, I wouldn't change what happened. Linda blinked. You wouldn't. Maya turned. Her eyes weren't cold. They weren't warm either. They were clear, because the girl you humiliated made me become the woman I am now. She stepped forward, holding Linda's gaze. And she doesn't need an apology to move forward. She already did. Then Maya turned and walked back inside. 1 year, 10 chapters. In a full circle that didn't end in revenge, but in rebirth. Final words. Maya Carter didn't set out to change the world. She just refused to let the world change her. And by standing up once, she helped thousands stand up too.